talk about wheat berries and soaking them and what kind I use. So let's get started. There's all types of wheat berries out there, and you just have to find what you think you're going to like best. For me personally, the white wheat is my favorite. I'm not crazy about red wheat. Red wheat is what is most common and what you're going to find in your typical store-bought whole wheat breads. Now, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just going to have a little bit more bitter flavor, where your white wheats are a sweeter taste to them. Now, even in the white wheat, there's two different types in particular that I use. This one here that I'm holding is a soft white wheat. And then the ones here in this measuring cup are hard white wheat. Now, if you look at them side by side, you'll see there's a little bit of a difference. Whereas the soft white, which is here, they're a little more plump and just smoother looking. And then here are the hard white. Now, what is the difference, you may ask, between these two wheat berries, and why would you want them both? Now, the hard wheat berries are going to be higher in gluten, which is going to be better for making your yeast breads. The soft wheat has a lower gluten content, and it's best for more delicate things like biscuits and pie crusts. Now, what I typically do, though I've used them both separately, what I like to do is blend them and have an all-purpose flour. What I find is the soft wheat berries are easier to grind, but they take a very long time. It can take an hour to grind 1 cup of flour. Whereas with the hard white, it's harder. It takes a lot more effort to grind it. However, I can get a whole cup in 15 minutes of grinding. So it's a quarter of the time. So what I like to do, which is part of the reason why I like to blend them, because I'm getting not only an all-purpose flour, I'm getting the best of both. So I'll do the hard white, and then I'll use a little bit of the soft white. So now I'm going to show you what I do to soaking these berries. Now, I've done a video on this before, and it was in the winter time, but now it's summer, so I'll show you what there is a little bit different thing that I do in the summertime. All right, so here I have 1.5 cups of the hard white wheat berries, and now I'm going to just top this off with the soft white to 2 cups. All right, now I'm going to get my empty jar here and pour the wheat berries into that. And that's usually what I want, is about 2 cups per quart jar. Then I'm going to take my raisin vinegar. You can use any of your homemade vinegars, but this is the one I have right now. I'm all out of my other fruits. This one's my favorite anyway, as you all know. And if you haven't seen my how to make raisin vinegar, you can find that video right up here. And by the way, a lot of people ask me, what do you do with the raisins? Well, honestly, I've only made it a couple of times. I don't make it as much just because it's more expensive, because I have to buy the raisins. However, I never really thought of what to do with the raisins until this year. When my vinegar is done, I'm planning on giving the raisins to the chickens, because I'm pretty sure they'll love it. However, some people gave some suggestions of trying it out in breads and things like that. So like a raisin bread, I bet it would be awesome. So I should probably try that at some point. At any rate, what I'm going to do is pour a little bit of this in here. I usually do about a tablespoon, maybe a little bit more. So we add the vinegar because that's what's going to help break down the phytic acid to make your grains easier to digest, and which is the whole purpose of soaking them in the first place. So then I'm going to top it off with my filtered rainwater. And though we don't have a Berkey system, we built our own. We do use the Berkey filters, and I'll link to where I get those below, because to me that's the best price I've seen on the Berkey filters. And you don't want to use city tap water when you're soaking your grains. You want to use a good water. You can buy some distilled water at the store or some spring water. If you can have rainwater collection, then just filter your water, or if you have good well water, then use that. Anything but city tap water that has all the chemicals in it. Okay, what I like to do next is then just take my chopstick and mix that all in there real good to make sure all the liquid and vinegar is getting down there to all the wheat berries, because what you're going to find is you're going to be a lot of air pockets anyway. And what I'll do once I'm done is I'm going to top this off the rest of the way, because when this is done soaking, it's the wheat berries are going to end up to here. Okay, and so then I just put a lid on it, and these are recycled peanut butter jar lids from some organic peanut butter we get at our local store here. And even shake it a little bit. These don't seal, so be careful when you shake it, because you're going to have water going everywhere like I just did. And then I just set it over there for about 24 hours. Now, what you have here are some wheat berries that I've already soaked and are ready to grind. So I'm going to show you what I do next, pretending these are the ones that are in there, so I don't have to break this up into 2 days. Here's where it gets different in what I do in the summertime from what I do in the wintertime. And if you want to see my other video, I actually show the whole process of how I do this in the wintertime. You can find that right up here. So what I do is I have my Nesco dehydrator tray with the fruit roll-up, whatever they call this thing, in here. And again, let's just pretend these are the wet berries that I've already soaked. I pour them onto my tray, and what happens is typically that many berries is going to take up 2 whole trays. And then I'm going to spread them out, and I put them on the dehydrator at about 115 degrees, and then it takes about a day for them to get fully dry. And then I put them back into a jar like this, which is what these are, and then they're all ready for me to grind. It's a little trickier getting them from here into the jar than it is the way I do it in the winter for my cookie sheets, my stoneware cookie sheets. But if you're using the dehydrator, you push them all to one side like this, and then carefully lift your tray out. And I will link to the dehydrator and to my nice little stainless steel canning funnel below. And if you're anything like me, you'll probably still get a bunch all over the counter and the floor too. And that's Mr. Rain laughing because he knows how true it is. That's why he stays out of the kitchen when I'm in here. All right, so then what I do is I just keep my wheat berries stored in the cabinet underneath my Country Living grain mill. And I'm going to show you a picture of that right here. And if you're interested more in that Country Living grain mill, how I use it, I do have a video on that we did several months back. And you can find that right up here. And we show you our whole setup. And then I just pour those into the grain mill, and then I grind them up throughout the day until I have as much flour as I need. Well, I don't usually use the flour immediately. I'm going to show you what I do with the flour. I keep several jars. I immediately freeze the flour, and I keep several jars in the freezer. This is the one I'm working on now, and I know you won't be able to read my horrible handwriting, but this says oldest. That means it's the one that's been in there the longest. This one is old, and then I have a new and a newest, the newest being the one that I'm currently filling up right now. And so as I'm using the flours, then I just take the jar out, use what I need, and I put it back in the freezer because I like to stay ahead on the flour, so just in case I have something that comes up and I need to make, let's say we decide to have a barbecue and I want to make a bunch of hamburger buns, and I'll show you a picture of my hamburger buns right here. You know, and it was just a spur of the moment thing. Okay, I've got a bunch of flour ready to go. I don't have to spend hours hand milling my flour. Now, my grain mill is set up that we could eventually, it's got a groove in that big wheel that if we ever wanted to, we could build a motor and attach it to there and just use the solar power to run it. But for now, I just do it by hand. I prefer that because it's working my upper body and giving me a workout. You know, especially in the wintertime is when I enjoy doing the most. All right, so that's basically it. I could probably go on and on about the benefits of soaking your grains, but I do recommend, I'm not quite as knowledgeable as this stuff. It's like I read this stuff, but I'm not good at retaining it all to be able to spew it out to you on the spur of the moment. So what I recommend is that you go watch Stacy's video on soaking grains, because she's has a lot of awesome information in there, and I will link to that right up here, and she goes more into depth as to why you want to do it. In fact, it was after watching that video that made me say, okay, I'd been reading about it, I need to make it a habit of soaking my grains. So I started doing that, and now that's all I use, is my soaked grains that I then dry and then grind them up for my flour. And that is what I'm using in the homemade bread that I've started making with my own fermentation starter, and it's been turning out pretty good. I've had some not turn out as fluffy as others, but I will be making a video about that too down the road. So it's all about being self-sufficient as possible, but also as healthy as possible. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned something new. Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.